Hello guys, Morgan Max here. Welcome to this new video about reading the tarot cards. And today, as I promised, we'll start to put something into practice based on what we have learned in the previous videos. We will start to put two cards together. So far we have studied three cards, three major arcana individually. I remember we have seen the moon card, we've seen the sun, and we have seen the major arcana number 16, the La Maison Dieu, also known as the tower in many decks. But I explained in my video why this is not the best term to indicate that that card is not even the original term. So you're more than welcome to go back and revisit those videos. Today I want to tell you what is important what we have to pay attention when we start putting two cards together. So you have to remember that when you look at a single card of the tarot deck, any card, the meaning of that card can be associated with what would be like a syllable in a sentence. Whereas if you put two cards together, they are equivalent to a word. And three cards together, they really make a sentence. So what I mean by that is that, for instance, if you have one single card and you give keywords to it, they are equivalent to a syllable. So let's assume a syllable made of two letters, L and O, so low. This syllable, of course, is part of different words. It could be the word lottery, or it could be the word love, or it could be the word alone, or again, for instance, lower is another word that has this syllable. But when you start putting two cards together, then you really form a word. So this is when you really know which one of these words are meant by that couple of cards. So for instance, let's assume the word is love. And then if you put a third card, then you have really a sentence, a statement. So something like, I love you. So this is just to tell you that little by little I will guide you through this process. So we have started seeing the singular meaning of the singular card, and now today we will start to putting together two cards to make a word, a sense of a word. And this association of two cards is what I call the tarologic duo. So duo means two cards, of course, and tarology is what we are studying. So a way of learning the tarot, not by memorizing them by heart, but actually try to look at the symbol and just seeing what that symbol does in relation to the other cards around it. So let's start with a couple of examples which clarify what I'm talking about. So so far we have seen three cards, La Maison Dieu, the sun and the moon. Let's assume that in a reading you have the couple Maison Dieu and sun, so these two cards together. Now, what is important, and I should say even before we start, is also the order in which these cards appear, because the meanings will be completely different based on this order. And you have to remember that when you read the Tarologic Duo, you always have to start from the left card to the right card, because you have to get to a point in which your reading becomes so fluent and so second nature that you actually can really read almost a sentence of it, make a sentence of it. And a sentence, of course, starts with a subject, and it has a verb, and it has a predicate. And the same way when you read the tarot card, you have to have a direction of your reading. So there are several criteria that I teach in my lessons. But one of the most, to determine the sequence in which you have to read the card, is not always from left to right. But, for now, let's stick with that. So we will read from the left to the right. So if you have these couple here, so La Maison Dieu followed by the sun, so based on the keywords and the meaning of these two cards together, you can read it, for instance, like a party, because I told you the La Maison Dieu indicates also a party, a festivity and celebration, in the hot season, so in the summer, for instance. But it can also indicate, I told you every time you have two characters in the tarot, it's a couple. So this is a couple in which one of the two people is very open, sincere, the other one is hiding something. So a couple that starts with some secrets ends up with two people that are fully and brightly naked, so they don't have anything to hide under the sun. So a couple that started with some secrets actually moves to a complete condition of sincerity. Another meaning could be, for instance, remember when I explained La Maison Dieu, I told you that the card that falls on the right side of this card is what is punished. And I told you that the Sun card also represents like the beginning of a new project. So this combination also could indicate, for instance, the punishment or the interruption, so to speak, of a new project. So as you can see, and we could go on with several other layers of interpretation. So we really don't know what do these layers have in common, and they don't necessarily. And if we add more layers, they're all perfectly fine in terms of interpretation, but they may mean something completely and profoundly different. So where is the truth? The truth is that they're all possible and true interpretation. The right one that you have to be able to pick up is based on what is the question that is asked. So if you have a specific question, for instance, on, should I go to that place in vacation, then the first interpretation I gave you just is perfect, because it indicates that there is a party, so a celebration outside in a hot place, so it will be encouraged. Remember that this also represents the house. So these people, you go from a situation in the house to people in the open, under the sun. So again, an interpretation to go there, to that place. So clearly, if you have a question instead about, is this new project gonna, pick up? The answer is probably no, because the card of the project ends and falls on the right side, so the side that is punished, of La Maison Dieu. However, and this brings me to the next topic, so if you change the order in which the cards have been extracted, so if you have the Sun followed by La Maison Dieu, at this time, though, you have that the new project is crowned by these major arcana, La Maison Dieu. So in this case, it means that the new project is encouraged, because the new beginning is actually successful, because it is crowned. So you see, the meaning completely changes in this case. Another interpretation for this combination, this sequence of cards, could be, for instance, a couple that starts being sincere and open and starts having secrets. So you see, it's quite the opposite of the previous situation. But also it could indicate that a friendship, these could be two friends, a friendship goes up in the air. So two friends go with their legs up. So a friendship goes upside down, up to the roof. And again, it will be the question that will determine which one of these two situations you have to read. And you will see when we will read the trio, so the three cards, the answer will be even more specific based on the question that you have. Now, let's give another example with two cards that we have already discussed previously in my video. So you have the Sun and the Moon. So let's assume that you have the sequence Moon-Sun. So what can these possibly mean? Again, if you read from the left to the right, one possible interpretation is that you move from a situation of darkness to a situation of light. So you really go from a dark period to an enlightenment, to a bright period. But also it could be that after quarreling, after fighting, you remember the two dogs are actually showing their tongues, so they are actually howling at each other, they're fighting, there is some agreement, there is a new beginning, there is a new project. The two people seem, to find peace at this point. Remember that the Moon card also was attraction, and this is the hot place, the hot season. So this sequence can indicate also an attraction for hot places, for the beach, for instance, or for anything that is to do with some sort of therapy with the sun or with the heat. Now let's assume that you have the opposite sequence, so you have the Sun followed by the Moon. This time you have that you go from the brightness, so the openness, to the darkness of the Moon. But also could indicate the two friends that were actually quite happy with each other starts having discussions, start having quarreling, even fighting with each other. or also it could indicate that a couple, remember when you have two people in the tarot, it's always a couple starts going separate ways. You see the two houses here, so they probably were under the same roof, and now they start going into two separate directions, into two separate houses. And again, you know, which one of these interpretation is the right one? It depends on the question, and it depends on what the other cards around these two will tell you. So this is just to give you an example that how you can read the tarologic duo, so when you have two cards together. And again, I just gave you three possible and very fine interpretations per each of the sequences in two different combinations, two different duos. But you know, you might have so many more layers of interpretation that could definitely be perfectly fine and followed. So I'll stop here, and I hope you like this episode on how to read the tarologic duo. If this is the case, remember to give me a thumb up and subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload my next video. If you have any questions in the meantime, or any comments on these videos, remember to make sure to use the comment box, which is of course below. And to get in touch with me, and especially if you're interested in learning how to read the tarot the way you have seen in this video and you will see in the next ones, so remember to check my websites. I'm both an astrologer and a tarot reader, and you know, pretty soon I will start also some astrological videos to give you a sense of how I read the horoscope, and if you're interested, you can take with me lessons also on astrology or the tarot. But check my websites, you will find the links in the description box below. And until next time, let the cards be your guide.